I'm Brother Michael. I joined the order in 1999, so I was one of the older people that have come in. I will be 70 in 2 weeks' time, so I've been here for 20 odd years. So I was in my 40s when I joined. I actually had been, back in the 1970s, I had joined the OFM because I felt called to the Franciscan way of life. But it had become clear following the novitiate and during the studies that I perhaps wasn't in the right place at the right time. And my mentor then, a very wonderful man called Eric Doyle, was my mentor, and he and I talked about things, and we decided that I should perhaps go a separate way, although the hope that perhaps one day I would feel ready to come back. However, when I did, I was over the age of 40, and the OFM kind of said, no, you're too old. So I looked around and spoke with Capuchins, came to visit them, and realised that what the Capuchin life offers was something which I cherished very much, and it fitted in with the kind of life that I was already living, in a sense, and also the life that I felt I wanted. So I was very happy when they accepted me. It took about, I took my time, I took about 2.5 years before I applied, and then to make sure that I was doing the right thing and for the right reasons. I think that, in terms of looking back over the last 20 odd years of my time in the order, one of the greatest gifts that I've had personally and found of great value was a friar who actually was living in this community here in Erith for many years, and who died about 6 years ago. His name was Brother Bernard. He was a lay brother. He wasn't a priest, but he was by far the most wonderful example of Franciscan simplicity and prayer and love. He was always in choir. He was always there to help everybody, whether you were a friar or one of the parishioners who had a problem. And for many, many years, when I lived with him here, it was very noticeable how some people came in to Mass, shall we say, over the weekend, and if they didn't see Bernard, and if he didn't kind of smile at them and wave to them, acknowledge them, they felt they hadn't really had a good day. And yet, once if Bernard recognized, he recognized them, but if Bernard acknowledged anybody, which he did for almost everybody who came in, it made their day. It's surprising what an effect he had on people in the order who knew him and lived with him, and on the parishioners I only knew them obviously in this parish, but I know from the multitude of Christmas cards and Easter cards that he used to get everywhere he had been stationed, in Birmingham, in North Wales, wherever he had been, the same pattern seems to have followed through, and he was a great example. Most of the Capuchin Franciscan saints, by far the majority, are not priests, they're lay brothers, who have, over the history of the order, both Capuchins and the Franciscans, have done the basic things, went out questing, were porters in the friaries and opened the doors, fed the poor who came to them, and who sat and talked with those who came and who needed just a bit of space and time to talk to someone in a peaceful and calm way. So Bernard was a great example of someone who did that. And he, as I say, he wasn't ordained, but he was a great example of how we all need to live our Franciscan lives. So he really was very important. He became very important to me. I helped look after him in his lasting years. He died a couple of weeks before his 92nd birthday, I think. And I was with him. He took ill during the night, and I was with him. And I went to the hospital with him, so I was with him when he died. Again, his peaceful and acceptance of God's will was perfectly obvious, even when the medics said there was nothing more they could do. And because he had a defibrillator, they wanted permission to disconnect it, because otherwise it would have kept beating the heart. He went peacefully and quietly to the Lord. And that, again, is a great example of what Francis wrote in the Canticle of the Brother Sun. Bernard welcomed, as Francis did, Sister Death. He had lived a long life. He had done many things. Like all of us, I'm sure he had things he regretted. But at that moment of death, I think written on Bernard's face was the peace. He knew where he was going. And, he was, and he is still a great example to many people. Many parishioners still speak about him and say how much they miss him.